We're gonna work on the guillotine. We're gonna go over 3 variations of the guillotine: the classic guillotine, the arm-in guillotine, and then the high elbow guillotine. We'll touch on some pros and cons of each, and then what we're gonna do is counter the stack by sweeping our opponent and then finishing with the one-arm guillotine. All right, so here we go. We're gonna start with our opponent in our closed guard. And one of the best ways to get the guillotine from closed guard is by setting it up with a hip bump sweep. So whichever way you choose to set up your hip bump sweep, break our opponent's posture, get his hands to the mat. Now, as we start to sit up, grab the elbow and we're pulling it to our waist. We're gonna give a little hip bump. Okay, if he doesn't defend, I will just simply sweep him through all the way to mount. Most often, your partner is either gonna post their arm or they're gonna push back into you, which leaves their neck available for the guillotine. So when I go for my hip bump sweep and he posts, the first guillotine we're gonna go for is a classic guillotine. So I'm simply gonna wrap my armpit all the way around my partner's neck. Now as I sit back, I wanna sit back off to an angle. So I switch my hips, and then I'm reaching in for that classic grip. So I'm taking all 5 fingers and grabbing onto my wrist like so. I'm gonna grab onto that little bone right on your wrist with a monkey grip. So we're just getting the neck this time. This is the classic guillotine. And then from here, I'm just gonna fall to my side. You wanna angle off to make sure that your hip is off to the side, and then we close our guard. If you need to, hip out a little bit more. Just place your foot on the mat and hip escape just a little bit to adjust your angle. Now we relock the closed guard, and to finish, we want to bring our elbow to our hip. We call this motion rocking the baby. I'm simply caving my partner's head in. I want to drive his chin to his belly. So to finish, we'll bring our elbow to the hip, and we get the tap. We're making that motion much like this, bringing the elbow to the hip, getting a good oblique crunch in there. The second variation is the arm-in guillotine. We bring our partner's hand to the mat, we go for the sit-up sweep, but this time we catch the arm in on the guillotine. So I wrap, I sit back, and I catch the arm. Now, we want to make sure that we sit off to the angle again so we can get the proper finishing mechanics. We don't want to fall straight to our back, we fall to our side. And again, if you need to hip out a little bit more, and you will on the arm in, it's a little tougher to finish, put your foot on the mat, give yourself a little hip escape, close the guard back up. Now we're gonna use that same mechanics of bringing his chin to his stomach and my elbow to my hip for the finish. The last guillotine is the tightest, and the one that you're starting to see a lot more often these days. We're gonna sit up for our hip bump sweep. He posts. Now this time we come back, we're gonna wrap. And as we sit back to leave a little bit more space this time so we can get the high elbow. We're gonna grab our wrist the same way we did before. However, I'm gonna rotate my forearm all the way around my partner's shoulder. Oftentimes he'll tap before you even sit back. But we're gonna do the same thing by falling back to our side, close up our guard, and get the very quick tap with the high elbow guillotine. So those are the 3 variations that we've been working on. Now, we're gonna go back to that classic guillotine. We're gonna sit up and go for the hip bump sweep. I get that classic guillotine, but one of the things you're gonna counter here is the stack. So as my partner starts to stack me and I fall to my back this time, what I want to do is counter by sweeping him. It's too difficult to finish the guillotine from here. So what I'm going to do is open my guard. I like to place my foot on the mat so I can hip escape just a little bit. And then I place that instep right above my partner's knee. Now to create the sweep, 2 things have to happen here. You need to elevate with your hook, and then you got to crunch his head to his belly to flip him off to the side. So we're going to sweep him off to the side. We sweep him right to his back. Now from here, I'm going to release one arm and I'm going to swim for my underhook on the other side. As I get that underhook, now to guide myself back to my knees, I need to scissor my legs, which brings me all the way on top. Now I have three bases of support. I got a support arm at 9, I got a support leg at 12, and I've got a support leg at 3. This one takes a little bit of practice finishing, but all we need to do is make sure we maintain that good chest on chest pressure, and then bring your opponent head all the way up into your pocket, and we roll his head in for the one-arm guillotine. Very powerful guillotine, a little difficult to finish. All right, so we're gonna do the same thing with the arm in. Oftentimes, you're gonna encounter the same response with the arm in as the classic guillotine. So we go for that hip bump sweep. We sit back and we get the arm in. Now my partner starts to stack me. Again, you don't have much of a guillotine at this point. He's got all his weight on top of me. So we're gonna open our guard, put that foot on the mat just a little bit, hip escape, and insert your hook. We're gonna do the same thing we did before. We're gonna crunch his head in and lift the hook, which sweeps him off to the side. Now from here, I release the arm, I pummel for the underhook, and I go back to that leg scissor that we had before, which guides me on top. Now I've got 3 bases of support. 1 at 9, 1 at 12, and 1 at 3. Now to finish, all I do is pull my elbow to my hip and keep my chest pressure on my partner for the one-arm guillotine. Very, very tight. Last, we're gonna go back to that high elbow guillotine. Now, if your partner tries to stack you with a high elbow guillotine, he's gonna choke himself. So again, we go to that hip bump, we wrap. Now make sure on the high elbow, you gotta leave yourself a little bit of space. So we gotta scoot back a little bit. Grab our wrist, and then we rotate. He starts to stack, he chokes himself. That's the 3 options with the guillotine that we've been working in class. We got the classic, we got the arm in, and we've got the high elbow guillotine. All of them have their pluses and benefits. Go learn them, and then what you're gonna encounter is your partner starting to stack you. So what we're gonna do is counter that stack by sweeping them to the side and then finishing with a one-arm guillotine. Let me know what you guys think. Go try them out. Thanks for watching.